Traveling to consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton Cuteri, and in today's podcast, we have a week in review, a little bit of a news podcast for you. And quite frankly, you know, the past week started off a little rocky, but it had a strong finish, a very strong finish, and it actually even continued into this morning. So, as of recording on May 12th, here's the news. Here's what's going on in case you missed it. So starting off, the big event that occurred last week, I believe it was May 6th or May 7th, it's all kicked off, is that a war broke out between India and Pakistan. There were some, essentially, who knows anymore? You know, we say the word terrorist, but who knows who they're funded by, who does what? So I honestly hesitate to use the word terrorist anymore. But there were essentially, let's say, a militant group or a terrorist organization, one of the two, that basically went into, I'm forgetting the name of it, but there's kind of like this territory that's like in between Pakistan and India that they have divided between each other, and they both kind of use it for their water system. Basically went in, found all these civilians, and basically asked them, you know, what religion are you? And anyone who was not Muslim was then killed. And I think it was about 20-ish people were killed in this. So India is like, hey, this is messed up. So India then launched strikes into, is it Kashmir? Kashmir? But launched strikes into this territory and even threatened cutting off the water supply in Pakistan, which is very pivotal because this water system was a part of their peace agreement a long time ago. And so now for that to have been a point of concern is a big issue. Now, where this ties into the American relationships is initially J.D. Vance came out, which is very interesting that he was the first one to talk on this, which I don't know. I don't want to read into it too much, but I think that that's a very interesting sign that he was the first one to come out. And he actually said that America should stay out of it. It's not our problem. Now, keep in mind, Pakistan and India are both proclaimed and identified as having nuclear weapons. Personally, I think pretty much every country has nuclear weapons. I think everything else is kind of a farce, but the fact of the matter is that it is known by everyone that they both have nuclear weapons. So J.D. Vance came out and he said that it's not our problem. Now, I have a whole bunch of issues with this statement because personally, I see America as being the leader, right? I think as we all do, as being the leader in the world. And I truly believe that now there should not be any military action taken from the United States part. So if that's what he was referring to, then I would agree. However, I do believe that America should stand as this beacon of a mediation for the ability for us to negotiate and to create world peace within the world. I think that's probably one of the biggest flexes that America can do and can have. Now, you use the military as a protection piece, and America rivaled with China. China actually might have military in more countries, but America is a close second at least. I don't know who has more, but America is at least a close second with military operations in neighboring countries, in different countries. And I think that responsibility should come with us being that mediator of peace. I truly believe that. I don't think we should be taking any military action, but for two known nuclear powers to go and start a war, for us to just be like, oh, it's not our problem. Guys, if a nuclear bomb goes off, okay, it will cause irreversible damage. Our planet is struggling right now with the damages that we have done to it. And in order for us to heal and to fix our planet, we have to prevent any sort of nuclear disaster. Even a nuclear reactor meltdown could cause a chain reaction that would cause permanent damage to our planet. So nuclear war is quite frankly the biggest issue facing the world right now because majority of the leaders are children. Don't tell them I said that. But they don't realize, or maybe they don't realize the insanity that is going on whenever we're talking about war and nuclear retaliation, if you will. So with JD Vance initially coming out and saying, yeah, they got to do their own thing, blah, 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 I'm not a part of it. It's like, look, every single war, especially with the size and the military capability of America, every single war is, in my opinion, America's responsibility to de-escalate, to be a mediator, and to get us back to peace. Now, thankfully, President Trump agrees with this. At least he didn't say that explicitly, but at least he agreed, because Trump claimed that he helped broker the ceasefire deal and so I kind of jumped ahead there. But yes, on May 10th, 3 days later, a ceasefire deal was announced. A ceasefire was announced. I don't know what the deal was or what the details are, but the point is that the U.S. did get involved, and Trump announced that he was a part of that negotiation of basically talking them off of the brink of war, which, again, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. So shout out to Trump on that. I think that's huge respect for him. And I think that's very important. And I'm very glad, in this situation that JD Vance was not in the White House, because if you just let two kids fight with each other, they're going to go until there's nothing left. I grew up with a brother and a sister, but I can promise you that they will keep going if there is not an adult in the room to mediate and to stop them from going to that brink of war. So big shout out to President Trump on that one. I want to make that clear, that I think that was a very good thing, and clearly, stopping people from dying is always a good thing. And another thing I want to actually, Trump had actually a really good week. A lot of it happened in the last couple of days. Another thing that he came out and did is he didn't actually, let's say, quote unquote, do this yet, but I'm going to read you something that he posted on his Truth Social account. He said, quote, "For many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, and that all these costs were and would be, for no reason whatsoever, borne by the, air quotes, suckers of America alone. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me and not with the Republican Party." That's my commentary. That's yet to be seen. Back to his quote. "We are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning in the White House at 9 a.m., which actually would have been about an hour ago, but I haven't seen any news about it, I will be signing one of the most comprehensive executive orders in the country's history. Prescription drugs and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%, which would be great. Maybe it should be a little bit higher. Honestly, my opinion, 100%, but we got to start somewhere. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize, and for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be insinuating a most favored nations policy, whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly. America, make America great again. The United States will save trillions of dollars. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Honestly, first of all, I do want to put out there that this might be one of the most comprehensive and I feel like succinct, like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a clean train of thought. Like this might be the most succinct and clean train of thought in a post that I've seen from Donald Trump in a while, at least. So, this is definitely a big W for him. I know in his first term, he also talked about reducing costs on pharmaceuticals and manufacturing and our drugs. And I don't think he really got too much through with that. He faced some major blocks by exactly what he's talking about here, which is the lobbyists within the pharmaceutical, Big Pharma, that prevented him from doing that. At least that's what it looks like on the outside. So I do want to applaud this. Let's see what happens with it, but I am very much in favor of this. And I also want to speak to kind of like my history in regards to this, where growing up and, kind of my early shaping was very much just capitalism approach, where I was like, it's all about money. Free markets are the best thing. Free markets will decide all of this. And the more that I've actually grown, I've realized that it's definitely more complex than this. And because this is a podcast, we can get into that complexity a little bit here. The complexity lies within a couple nuanced situations. Number one, we have the advent of crony capitalism. And if you don't know what crony capitalism is, it's essentially that the lobbyists can influence politicians to make laws that will benefit those with money, which will create this unfair advantage to those who already have money, thus giving them more money. And if you're a small business owner, it handicaps you because now you're not able to fight against the giants. It makes it even more difficult for David to take down the Goliath. I guess in this situation, there's multiple Goliaths. And so crony capitalism, for one, because it kind of, it's weird because it technically is a part of capitalism. Because if you take the purest form of capitalism, it means no strings, no barriers, free market. But when that happens, now we have the influx and influence in politicians. So we have to at least block capitalism from penetrating our political atmosphere. The next layer of this comes into the form of living and being a human being. If you've ever watched James Bond, and I just rewatched this, and it's pretty funny that I just rewatched this, but there's one of the movies is called Quantum of Solace. It was 2008 maybe, but it was with Daniel Craig, and in it the premise is, and so spoiler alert, the premise is that the evil character is basically cutting off the water from everybody. He's buying up lakes and beds and waterways and basically blocking everyone from purchasing that water. So he's essentially manufacturing a drought so that he can raise the price of water, and he has all the water so that he can just sell it to people. Now, the issue with this is that hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people would die in this situation. So the extra layer, the other area that I'm trying to get to is whenever it comes to our living, being a human being and living, we have to find a way to completely remove the money from that equation. The present day example would be like what BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are doing, where these hedge funds are buying single family homes. They're going into complexes and just buying them all. And it is artificially increasing the value of homes throughout our country. It's a huge issue. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. actually talked about this a lot during his presidential campaign. It's something I completely agree about, is that we have to remove the cost from living. The cost of living, right, should, in a perfect world, should be zero. We're talking about food, right? This comes back to my platform of free non-chemical food, medication, free medication, right? I think we should go even lower. And we also have talked about reducing energy costs to your houses. I think we could, I truly think that within the first implementation round, let's say, we could reduce it by about 50%. The numbers support that. And then over a long period of time where we implement technology, we implement different ways to grab energy from nature that have been suppressed, that have not been talked about, we can get to a place where it's zero. I know that sounds like a futuristic utopia, but it actually is a possibility. I've looked at the numbers. And the point that I'm trying to get at here is that the human body, our innate ability to live and experience being human, should not cost money. We were all born, we all were brought into this world, and money has been used as a tool, because money is a tool, but it has been used by the elite as a tool to suppress and create slaves and keep you in indentured servitude to a system that does not allow you to express yourself as the creative being that you are, because it has strangled you to a point where you are just trying to breathe. You are just trying to figure out how to keep your head above water. And when you get that head above water, they find another way to kind of just push it back down a little bit so that your individuality, your creative abilities are suppressed and you cannot explore what it means to be human. We have to create and cultivate a society where everyone is free to explore the life that they want to live, where they are not afraid to be strangled by debt, to be strangled by rising housing costs, to be strangled by poisoned food, to be strangled by taxes. And it's doable. The crazy thing is that it is doable. And so coming back full circle, this is why that I applaud what Trump's executive order is regarding bringing down the pricing of these medications. It's a good start. And first of all, it is just a start. It's just words at this point. Let's see how it plays out on the physical world, on the physical landscape. But big picture, we need to bring those down to virtually zero. We cannot, and here's the premise. Look, I really want to drive this point home, and it's probably the piece of me because I used to be so ravenous of just free market, kind of just screw it, everyone do whatever you want. And I really want to drive this point home that the human body should not be made a profit center. And that is the huge issue that we have within our big food and our big pharma. The human body has become a profit center. If you make people sick, they rely on big pharma. If you poison the food, they have to eat more food to get the nutrients they want. And on the process there, they become more sick. We keep them just barely alive long enough so that we can suck all the money out of them, all the value out of them. That has to change. That dynamic, that economic model can no longer exist. In 99% of businesses, of business planning, I truly believe that there is such a thing as healthy competition, creating the best product so everyone thrives. But in order for us to create that best product, in order for people to be able to create the thing that their soul came to this planet to create, it has to be free. It cannot be strangled by these constraints that have been placed upon it in society through decisions over the last 110, 20-ish years. I mean, geez, it probably goes back longer than that, but really it kicked off in the 1913 was really the pivotal year whenever it comes to we're talking about money. That's when everything started to go south, but that's a whole nother podcast. There's quite a few things that happened in 1913 that really, really put a strain on, that got us to where we are today. Let's put it like that. I think we talked about that. What was the other thing? Oh, another thing that I would like to praise Trump for, and I actually don't know if this is confirmed or not. It's kind of been a little bit ambiguous. Nothing really truly has solidified, confirmed this, but there are reports. Again, no direct statement confirming this, but there have been reports that Trump is starting to refuse orders from Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. And I don't know exactly what it is, but there have been reports that, first of all, that I guess Bibi's running the show. Haven't we been talking about that? See, here's the thing, is that if you listen to this podcast, you're going to know things before they actually happen. Because I don't just sit here and just take in the media. You have to look at what chess pieces are on the board. What's being played? Where are they trying to move their knight? How are they trying to get to the checkmate? Where are they going? Why are they doing what they're doing? So many people will sit there and just listen to the news and just absorb it. Like, okay, cool. You did that. I'll do this. That's what they're doing. But you have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. When you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, you can see where these pieces are being moved around to. You can see what their plan is, what's their strategy, what are the tactics that they use to get to that end goal. And when you do that, when you seriously evaluate it, and look, first of all, there's nothing special about me. You can do this for yourself. It just takes a little bit of practice. That's all it literally does. It takes some practice and a clear mind. Divorcing yourself from attachment of the outcome and realizing what the end goal is. Detaching yourself from who or what or this or that and realizing the way that this entire system has been set up. So you listening to this podcast, you literally get the news months before it happens. And you realize the way that the dynamics of the world has shaped. because the reports have come out that Trump is refusing to take orders from Bibi Netanyahu. Think about the way that that sentence is structured. It implies that Trump was taking orders from Bibi Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, which means that he has not been, which means that he was taking orders, and which means that he was putting Israeli influence, Israeli policies above America, which confirms what we have been talking about on this podcast for the last, I don't know, since January. What are we, 4 or 5 months in now? I guess we're technically 4 months in. And so, I need to praise Trump. If he has officially decided to set the line down and said, nope, we are no longer taking orders from Israel, congrats, kudos. We still have a lot of snakes in Congress that need to take that approach as well. But AIPAC, and that's a whole nother thing. AIPAC's a whole big issue there, which isn't even a foreign. Okay, AIPAC's a different podcast. Someone remind me. We'll talk about AIPAC in the future. But that's another. Just Google AIPAC. Understand how they don't have to register as a foreign lobbyist group, and it gives them all these different rights. It's completely corrupt. It's ridiculous. Our Congress is being controlled by AIPAC at some level. Thomas Massey, a representative from Kentucky, actually went on Tucker Carlson's podcast and talked about this. So if you want even more details, go look there. The point that I'm trying to get at here is that if Trump holds to this, if it's true and Trump holds to this, then that is a huge praise that I want to give him for finally being able to stand up and for finally being able to put America's priorities over Israeli priorities. Because what Israel is doing in the Middle East is barbaric. Absolutely barbaric. Google Maps uploaded images of before and after the mayhem, the destruction that they unleashed on Palestine. And it is barbaric, to say the least. It is a complete leveling of all of it. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see. Here's the deal, is regardless of whether or not this is true, we will see by the actions, by the statements of Trump moving forward, if this is true, if he has actually decided to put America's interest before Israeli influence. We just need Congress to do the same. Because if Congress, who has the power of the purse, decides to send another 10, 15, 20 billion dollars to Israel because they're our greatest ally who has done absolutely nothing for us. Seriously, what has Israel contributed to America? Let's be real here, okay? Let's be real. What has Israel done that has benefited America? Well, they're a strategic ally in the region. What does that even mean? That implies that there are issues within that region that we have to, that we need them for. We don't need them for everything. I think for some reason we have this idea that we supply money to Israel and flex our arm and like we're in control of Israel. When the reality is everything that has happened since September 11th has made that region more destabilized because of the policies which were started with George W. Bush and have been enacted since then by every single president over the last 20 some years. It has only created problems. So here's the deal. If you have a friend and you call them your ally and all they're doing is creating problems for you, it's your responsibility to stop hanging out with them. They are no longer your friend. They are no longer in your best interest. And quite frankly, we have to look at that as what it is. And I'm not saying we need to like join the side of anybody else. We just need to join the side of everybody. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's get to a place where we love Israel, which apparently the American government, the United States government already does. But let's also love everyone else. Let's love Palestinians. Let's love Egyptians, Lebanese, love Iranians, love Iraqians. I don't know if that's actually what they're called in Iraq. But I think you get the point that I'm trying to put out here, is that we should be loving everybody. We should be allies with everybody. Because again, if we're giving 20 billion to this people and they're killing all these people, what are we doing? And speaking of, there has been an increase in ceasefire talks in the Russia and Ukraine war. There has been threats of sanctions and more sanctions, not specifically with America, but with other neighboring countries, to be placed on Russia if Putin doesn't come to the table. So that could be a good sign too. And again, I go back to it, is we should be allies with everybody. We should love everybody. Everybody has something to contribute to this world, and we need to treat them as such, which means every single country has something to contribute to this world, and we should treat them as such. And this illusion that there are people who are better than us or worse than us is something that we have to break, and you have to break it within yourself first. You do. You have to realize that every single person you see in the world has something to offer. They have some sort of knowledge or life experience that you can learn from. Now, that doesn't mean you should just go up and talk to everybody, but you at least have to treat them with that little understanding that there's something in there that you can help them and they can help you. And once you realize that, once we as a world realize that, we will achieve world peace overnight. Because it's going to happen. The only question is how long until it happens. With all that being said, I appreciate you guys. If you learned something in this podcast, please share it, because that is another way that we will get closer to world peace, is by other people having this ideology, looking at the world in this way, realizing that we are one family. So share this podcast. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you guys. And if you do not share it, then I'm going to have a conversation with you whenever I see you in the 6th dimension.